What is up, and welcome back to Talking Nutrition. Today, we're going to finish off our mini-series, The Principles of Nutrition. So over the last couple of weeks, we did a nutrition one-on-one basically, where we touch on all the basics, clearing up some confusion, and just doing a little bit of a refresher, Now, flexible dieting is the approach that we use with all of our clients. It's a really nice way to still include some of the fun stuff while we prioritize our 80% whole foods, or maybe like 90% when we're in a diet. Now, here's the thing. We see a lot of people try restrictive diet after restrictive diet, whether it's like the keto, the low carb, right? Cutting out all sugars, whatever it is, the meal replacements, the skinny teas. I actually can't believe that stuff is still around. Anyway, long story short, a lot of people try so much, but then still don't get the results. And I think, because I even see people not manage to reach their goals with, in quotes, clean eating, I think that that's just as unsustainable as if it's fish or macros where food quality doesn't fucking matter. So that being said, we want to meet in the middle with most of our foods coming from micronutrient dense whole foods. And then every now and then, feel free to enjoy the fun stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Once again, if you'd like to drop us a quick rating on Apple or Spotify, that would really mean the world. Now let's get into the last part of the Principles of Nutrition mini-series.
Flexible dieting means that we're just going to eat minimally processed foods most of the time. Whole foods. To allow for flexibility in moderation. Thank you. Because, to be honest with you, I want you to eat pizza and hamburgers and chocolate and ice cream and sugary cereals and drink Coca-Cola, but not like the light version. I want you to have all that stuff. But context always matters. We can include pretty much everything as long as we eat good, healthy most of the time. So how do we do that? Protein with every meal. Like I said, a lot of people struggle with their protein intake. It's kind of simple. When you track, well, you can figure it out how much you need. If you don't track, maybe the quarter of a plate or the palm of your hand, maybe one or two, depending on how much you want. That should do the trick. Want to include meat, fish, etc. Protein with every meal. Now, omega-3s, like I said, you want to maybe eat fish like salmon. If you don't, might want to consider taking a fish oil. But once again, it's up to you to decide, or possibly check with your doctor. Fruits, 1 up to 3 servings per day. It's totally cool to be on the lower end. But hey, if you're in a deficit, it might be a good idea to actually include more of that, right? Because those fruits are going to fill you up. Same with veggies, 2 up to 4. I basically call this eating like a grown-up, but a lot of grown-ups don't eat like that anymore. So I stopped calling it that. But 2 to 4 servings of veggies per day. Remember the micronutrients that we talked about. The secret to that, is to just change it up. Different colors contain different micronutrients. Hydration, 30 to 40 milliliters per kilo of body weight, -1. So just to give you an example, for me, that would be 3 to 4 liters, but because you usually get 1 liter from food contains water, you can subtract that. So what's left for me is like 2 to 3 from drinking water, hydration. You want to add more when you're training though. So per hour of training, another half up to a liter per hour. Eat minimally processed foods most of the time. With most of the time, I mean like 80% of the time. In a deficit, maybe 90. But you don't have to calculate that. But just remember that idea. Eat minimally processed foods most of the time. Because these foods are going to fill you up the most. They're going to give you the most nutrients. And it's also super easy to stick to. Because if your food or if your meals consist of mostly just normal food, the stuff that doesn't really need a label, it's going to be very simple to stick to. And then there's a lot of room for the fun stuff. So with the fun stuff, I mean the sugary cereal that I eat every single day. So that's my 20%, Fruit Loops. That is the hamburgers, the chocolate, and all that good stuff. You can fit it in. You can all fit it in. Takes a little bit of planning maybe. Flexible dieting is really the way to go, guys. I'm not necessarily a fan of labeling stuff, or that's also why I kind of hate the word dieting. When you think dieting, it's kind of like keto, or like low carb. No, you don't have to be on a diet. What matters is your diet, right? But like I said, it's called flexible dieting, so we're gonna run with it, but just to kind of explain it a little bit. I want you to enjoy the fun stuff. Now, when you build your meals, very simple. You don't have to remember these. You want to include, for most of your meals, a protein source, a carb source, a fat source, and then something with color. So fruits or veggies. If most of your meals look like that, you're already doing most of it right. So maybe a quarter of protein, quarter of carbs, fats maybe like a thumb or 2 or something, and then the rest of your plate, color. That's maybe kind of like one way to think about it without tracking. I do recommend people track. It's a great tool to learn from. But once again, also if you don't track, if most of your meals look like this, So one protein source, a carb source, a fat source, and something with color. Like you're literally doing most of it right already. Where it gets more difficult is if you include a bunch of stuff that includes a bunch of different ingredients, which is also fine. Like processed foods is not like bad or anything. But I'm just saying from an adherence standpoint and just the nutrients that you're getting and how filling these foods are, it's really your best bet.